Hey there, what do you say there? It's a lovely day there, and today we are taking, once again, another look inside of this beautiful book. It's called Survival in the 21st Century, Planetary Healer's Manual by Viktoras, Kulvinskas. And this is Jerome Shaw, host of the Open Palm podcast, Motivator. Meditator, coming at you as we take more explorations through these wisdom of the ages with one of today's modern sages. This is Jerome Shaw, and these are the Pranic pages. So before we are proceeding through this Pranic reading, you can check out the playlist if you'd like more information on different books and different looks. And of course, that playlist is called the Pranic pages. Now, this chapter is called Light is Life. Light is life. Truly the light is sweet, and a pleasant thing it is for the eyes to behold the sun. Ecclesiastes 11 verse 7. I like how he draws inspiration from different scriptures and information. Light has a physiological effect on all living things. Summer sunlight provides its worshipers with a great deal of vigor and vitamin D. Research teams are discovering that dependence on the sun is even more extensive, possibly making the difference between health and premature death. It might be stated even more strongly that the long-term effect of air and sunlight is much more important than the diet itself. Dr. John Ott, Chairman and Executive Director of the Environmental Health and Light Research Institute, states, "We are just beginning to find out that light entering the eyes, in addition to vision, stimulates the activity in both the pituitary and pineal glands, and possibly other areas of the midbrain region that control the endocrine system and the production of hormones." Very interesting how just letting the light in can start to begin these wonderful processes that we have, where we can receive all that we need through the light that we perceive. Dr. Ott became interested in light research because of a personal experience. He retired to Florida, hoping the sun could improve his arthritic leg. Sun soaking failed to help. When he broke his sunglasses, sunbathing without them improved his condition in a few days, even enabling him to throw away his cane. Now, I know you might be hearing this and like, Jerome, that's insane. Just a few days of sun and he threw away his cane? It's so amazing what we can maintain and what we can gain when we allow that light in and we become self-sustained. In this modern age, where we are at the stage where we wear sunscreen, we wear sunblock, we wear sunglasses, right? Sun visors. We try to block out the sun, not realizing that the sun is the one. That if it weren't for the sun, what would we have? If it weren't for the sun, would we be so glad? Or would we have a tendency towards feeling sad? For when the sun shines, we know it's not all so bad. So we must appreciate the light and the source that we have. He reported in the Optometric Weekly, life on this earth since the beginning has evolved under the full spectrum of natural sunlight. Recent experimental studies have indicated that abnormal growth responses developed when any part of this natural sunlight spectral energy was blocked from entering the eyes. As people have become more civilized, living under an environment of artificial light, behind window glass, eyeglasses, and particularly sunglasses of different colors, the balance of the wavelength energy entering the eye has become greatly distorted from that of natural sunlight. So I talked to one of my friends, Harry Matadine. Shout out to Harry. And he refers to artificial light as junk light. You know, we have, so many screens and LEDs, that disrupt and distort the way we see. But when we allow the natural light to come in, that's a win. Dr. Richard Wertman, Associated Professor of Endocrinology and Metabolism in the Department of Nutrition and Food Science, states the role of pineal cells appears to convert a neural input controlled by an exogenous factor, light, to endogenous glandular input, its hormones. Dr. Wertman recapitulates another study where the function of the spiritual third eye is discussed, that pineal might have some photoreceptive capacity, at least in vertebrates, was postulated about 60 years ago by a Swedish anatomist, noting that frog pineal cells are surprisingly similar in appearance to the cone cells of the retina. They speculated that the function of the frog pineal was to act as photoreceptor or third eye. People spend over 90% of their lives in buildings and vehicles. They have declared themselves independent of the ocean of light in which they are immersed. Dr. Wertman foresees a new concern in the near future if, in fact, excess exposure to artificial light or inadequate exposure to natural light has a harmful biological effect. We may soon find ourselves worrying about light pollution. And that's what he was talking about when he talked about junk light, right? You got your junk food and then you got your junk light. Light pollution. Isn't that interesting? Glass windows shut out the greatest part of the ultraviolet and end of the light spectrum. So ultraviolet, violet being the furthest light, right, on the end of the spectrum, and ultra meaning beyond or above, ultraviolet. So it's beyond what we can see with our visible eyes. But the absence of evidence isn't the evidence of absence. Even if it's beyond what the eye can see, it doesn't mean it's not there. So we're becoming more aware, and we're taking great care. Artificial lights are no substitute for the rays of the sun. Let me say that one more time. Artificial lights are no substitute for the rays of the sun. Now, I know somewhere somebody's going to be like, well, what if there's no sun outside? What if I live in a place in the world where there's no sun? Well, if you can see the light, that means the sun is there. Even if it is beyond the clouds, even if there is a shroud, right? Even if the light isn't so loud, you can still know that the light is there. So just be aware that if you can see, it's in the air. The light is there. A few years ago, the Russian scientist Danzig, Latsarev, and Sokolov states, if the human skin is not exposed to solar radiation, direct or scattered for long periods of time, disturbances will occur in the physiological equilibrium of the human system. The result will be functional disorders of the nervous system and vitamin D deficiency, a weakening of the body's defense, and an aggravation of chronic disease. Dr. Ott reported in studies of insects that when you block out any part of the natural sunlight spectral energy from entering their eyes, abnormal growth of the body may result. In a paper published by the Building Research Institute, Dr. J. Hardy says the penalty for shutting out even a small degree of natural light may be acceleration of the aging process. Dr. Ott reports that cell cultures exhibit a wider range of behavior patterns when subject to distortion of natural light. A blue filter that transmits only the shorter wavelengths produced an undulating of boiling motion not noticeable at normal speed, but only apparent when the action is speeded up many times through time-lapse photography. This abnormal activity closely resembles that of the cells being attacked by viruses. When a red filter is used in the light source, restricting all but the longer wavelengths at the other end of the visible spectrum, the final death of the cell results from a rupture of the cell wall and hemorrhaging out of the cytoplasm. Considering that pollutants in the air act as filters, changing the quality of light from the sun which made life possible, there may be a compelling reason for leaving the city. People are made of billions of universes called cells, which research shows to be light dependent. So we are light, we give off light, and we are nourished by the light. Therefore, so are people. Dr. Ott says distortion or deficiency of natural light can cause a biochemical or hormonal deficiency in both plant and animal cells. Dr. Ott foresees, perhaps sometime in the near future, the relationship between the full spectrum of the sun's natural rays and health will be better understood. Then, to keep well and happy, we may find ourselves being put on light diets in the same way we go on food diets today. Research and direct observation show there may be possibly a great error on the part of the orthodox nutritionist who emphasizes the myth of a well-balanced diet. Dr. Ott finds it very difficult to explain why some individuals develop nutritional deficiency symptoms, while others do not on exactly the same diets. We already know that vitamin D, which is essential to health, need not be introduced into the diet because it is created through the action of light on the skin cells. This may be true for other vitamins as well. Vitamin B deficiency does not seem to affect all individuals living on identical diets. Residents in the tropics makes it clear that a typical nutritional deficiency disease, such as beriberi, may only affect a small percentage of the individuals living on the same diet in any particular village. Its incidence among the Philippine Scouts, for example, serving under American officers, varied between 100 and 600 from year to year, out of a total of 5,000 men living on identical diets. George Osawa often says, generally speaking, avoid consuming anything that contains vitamin C. The macrobiotic diet doesn't provide an obvious vitamin C deficiency. According to nutritionists, vitamin C cannot be stored in the body. You need a daily dosage. The temperature, alkaline environment, and oxidation in the bloodstream destroy it. Yet macrobiotic followers do not develop scurvy. The same observation can be made about sailors who lived on board ship on identical diets. Many developed no scurvy symptoms long after some had died from the disease. It is possible that some individuals were actually manufacturing the vitamin in their bodies. Dr. J. Love Wisdom, after several years on a largely fruitarian diet, performed an experiment which demonstrates the adequacy of air, sun, and water to sustain health. He lived in the high Andes. He says, my first long fast was endured 7 months and 7 days. And 4 months later, I again fasted 6 months and 17 days, taking nothing but 99% pure water. Most everyone who fast on 99% pure water, since ordinary tap water contains considerable mineral matter. But I did not want the inorganic earth minerals, so I used pure distilled water with a compensatory 1% from acid fruit juice of organic water. The organic water doesn't have a toxic waste of even 1%, although this 99% pure water had hardly any taste of color noticeable to others. Adding the fruit juice did make it possible to drink great quantities of water, a gallon a day, that washed the whole alimentary tract. So diluted, it could not start digestive functions, which brings back hunger that makes a fast practically impossible to continue. This way, the digestive tract benefits from a complete rest without any unbalanced feeding while fasting. So the water goes through fast, sometimes 15 minutes after taking, serving as a natural enema. Thus, my secret of such long fasts is simply in keeping the whole length of the intestines well washed, rather than letting the food residue and even aged deposits from before one's fast poison the blood and thus paralyze the body's muscles, cause toxic headaches, coat the tongue, and even kill one. And this is from Viktoras, Spiritualizing Dietetics. A yogi cataract surgeon from India said that the peasant in India who works all day in the fields under the sun, in the evening will have a frugal meal of rice. They have been eating the same thing for ages, and yet no nutritional deficiency. They get the food from the sun, the way God intended. Doctors Omen and Hipsley, when studying the interior native population of New Guinea, found that they showed excellent health and muscular body build. By orthodox standards, protein intake was insufficient, 15 to 20 grams daily. However, studies disclosed that an additional 25 to 45% of protein was provided by internal bacteria, Clostridium refringens B, which fixed nitrogen from the air to form amino acids. George Lakovsky, a Russian-born scientist and medical doctor who lived and worked in America in The Secret Life, discusses an experiment where he relates cosmic radiation to nutrition. The experiment is as significant as the demonstration of Einstein's theory of relativity, which showed that matter can be converted into pure energy and vice versa. Lakhovsky's thesis is that body growth and maintenance depends not on food, but on cosmic rays. The body itself being a condensation of these rays, which are said to be streams of substance of ultrasonic form which condense into minerals as they contact the Earth's atmosphere. This datum he deducted by measuring the amount of iron in unicellular organisms kept in sealed tubes. After a period of time, he found that as the cells multiplied, the iron content of the organism increased. Several years ago, the Soviet Academy of Science Publication Transactions published the findings of Dr. Mikhail Valsky. Dr. Valsky incubated hen eggs in an incubator containing special air, in which harmless argon gas replaced the ordinary air content. So he replaced the ordinary air with harmless argon gas. The egg embryo died in 4 hours. He then put other eggs in air containing the normal amount of oxygen. However, he replaced the nitrogen with argon. This time, the eggs lived 12 hours. Finally, the eggs were put in air containing normal components, except that the nitrogen atoms were tagged. It was observed that the eggs definitely absorbed nitrogen-tagged atoms and grew chickens. Dr. Viktor Kowalski commented on Valsky's findings. What used to be regarded as an inert gas, nitrogen, has been proven to be a gas assimilated from the air to become a part of the proteins which form animal organisms. Scientific advances show that the entire material universe is only a visible manifestation of varying condensed wave forms. Dr. H. Shelton, New York University, wrote, "We live in a world of waves." The further we delve into the ultimate structure of matter, the more obvious it is that nothing exists except in wave form. Electrons, long thought to be the ultimate particles of which all matter is formed, have now been shown to have a reality only as a wave form, while the atom consists of a bundle of such waves. And this reminds me of different Hermetic laws and Hermetic principles, talking about how the world is an ocean of motion and that everything is in motion and nothing rests. The law of vibration. It states that. This is very interesting, how we come to these same conclusions and we come to these same solutions. Today is common scientific knowledge that for most known particles, there is an antiparticle. When they come together, both are annihilated, leaving no trace. Similarly, in sound, when two identical waves are out of phase, they will cancel one another under proper geometrical arrangement. Two wave forms can be added and new ones formed. Through selected filters, a complex waveform can be filtered into simpler components. In the field of nuclear physics, this could be the equivalent to transmuting one atom into other atoms, not compounds. This alchemist's dream has been fulfilled in nuclear labs through the use of enormous amounts of energy and the particle accelerator. In the human body, such reactions are carried out through the use of low-intensity biological energy and the most precise bionuclear forces. L. Kervran presents overwhelming evidence that the alchemist's dream is active in the biological laboratories. L. Kervran describes the following experiment, which showed transmutation of nitrogen into carbon and oxygen. In 1961, a rat was confined to a sealed tube for 2 months along with chlorella and oxygen. The animal survived the experiment. When the sealed tube was opened, it was found that the percentage of nitrogen in the air inside the tube had decreased by 2/3, while the oxygen simultaneously increased. Kervran shows that to produce potassium from the fusion of sodium and calcium, about 4 electron volts of energy is required. This could be furnished from the sun. Cue the sun. By a short ultraviolet ray, wavelength 3,000 angstroms. Other experiments show that matter is being created from solar radiation through the condensing effect of cell geometry. As an example, the nitrogen diet is lowered below the level of normal excretion by the intestine. The excreted quantity remains higher than the total ingested quantity. Since nutrition could not supply nitrogen, endogenic production must be responsible. Emma Dietz of Harvard University in the Journal of Chemical Education wrote that chlorophyll absorbs energy from the sun and in some unknown way uses it for the manufacture of sugar, starch, and protein. Dr. Dietz finds it difficult to comprehend that chlorophyll and hemoglobin should be so similar in structure, yet play such different roles. In the slow development of the chemistry of these two pigments, it has been an increasing source of wonder to chemists to find that two substances of such widely differing origin and function are yet so remarkably alike in structure. Reminds me of human photosynthesis 101, Is such discrepancy between structure and function possible? I believe it is not. My belief is that hemoglobin, which constitutes a major portion of the blood solids, when unobstructed by food in a high altitude tropical environment, will maintain the body in good nutritional balance indefinitely by converting solar radiation into essential nutrient vibrations. Come on, somebody. Church is in the building. I'm just going to read that one more time. My belief is that hemoglobin, which constitutes a major portion of the blood solids, when unobstructed by food in a high altitude tropical environment, will maintain the body in good nutritional balance indefinitely by converting solar radiation into essential nutrient vibrations. Nutrients are trapped solar vibrations which constitute the basis for diet. The bulk that is associated with food has to be expelled once the energy has been stripped from it. The thousands of individuals who have lived without food give weight to this argument. The plant kingdom is made up of light eaters. There are also some highly evolved spiritual beings who likewise are sunlight and air eaters. The hemoglobin-rich blood is changed by its encounter with light as it journeys from sun-illumined skin on its journey to bring light to the dark interior of the body. The skin is the organ of light nutrition assimilation, just as the lung is the organ for the ingestion of air nutrition. Woo! And we just gonna let that breathe. We just gonna let that breathe. We just gonna let that marinate. And there's so much love in here. I can feel the love in this book. Even though I'm reading this on a Kindle, I can feel the love on these pages. I can feel the energy on these pages as we're going through the stages, reading the wisdom from the ages. And it's so interesting how when I first came and when I first started reading, you saw that the line or the sun, the light was not shining directly down. And now the sun is out, the light is all around. And what have we found, right? That the light can lift you up when you were once feeling down. So thank you so much, my friend. Thank you so much just for listening and glistening once again as we are taking these looks inside of these books, just learning more and more as we start to explore what could be possible for us and humanity. And just know that if you're on this path, it is not insanity. It's not vanity, right? But that these things can raise your vibration as you are intaking even more information. I just appreciate you. Much love and celebration. For if you are on this journey today, congratulations. We'll tune in next time as we reach a new stage. This has been Jerome Shaw, and thank you for turning the page.